the Liberal housing minister says he doesn't want house prices to go down. He says he's focused on protecting people's assets. Well, now we know why.
The housing minister didn't stand up to actually respond to the question. That's the issue. So,
well, I mean, after a shellacking like that, would you stand back up?
But don't worry, everybody. Steve McKinnon's to the rescue.
When Mark Carney was busy getting humiliated by Trump on Monday, his Liberal caucus was getting eviscerated by the Conservatives, who discovered that Housing Minister Gregor Robertson may have been hiding a dirty little secret that could land him in some serious hot water.
Let's take a look.
Oral questions, the honourable member for Thornhill.
G7 today, surrounded by allies in the largest oil-producing province in the Federation. But thanks to the Liberal government, the oil and gas products they're demanding are still in the ground, and instead of powering our economy and Canadian paychecks. We've got laws blocking extraction, a cap that halts production, a shipping ban that stops it from leaving, and an industrial carbon tax that makes it all more expensive to build. Will the Liberals repeal our anti-energy laws and approve projects so that we can get jobs for our people and our resources to market?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Speaker, what this government will do is pass the One Canadian Economy Act to get the economy going again.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Here's the problem. As the G7 begins, the world may find out what Canadians have known for years. The Liberal laws still in place make it nearly impossible to get anything built. The Prime Minister's solution is not to fix the problem. Instead, he wants to give hall passes to the very few favoured VIPs to skip the line while everyone else waits. C-69, the emissions cap, the shipping ban, the industrial carbon tax, those are all still on the books. Everyone knows the laws are broken and we need to exempt projects for them. So why not just repeal the laws, period?
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Because that makes too much sense, Melissa. How dare you have common sense?
Common sense is not allowed around here. We've seen that lately. But isn't it ironic that the G7 is being hosted in Alberta, where all of this is intersecting at this point?
Do you think it was on purpose? Like, was it planned to be in Alberta a while back, or was this a recent thing to maybe try to quell separatism? Like, what is this?
I don't know how they select the area for where they're going to hold the G7, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was some lame attempt to try and foster unity or whatever you want to call it, but none of this can happen with these laws in place. This is the problem. These laws are environmental fanatic laws, and they need to be taken out. So for anyone who is hoping that the Liberal government is going to be moving closer to the center, as Mark Carney had tried to say, he has made no indication that he's planning on doing that. He's decided not to actually put forth a budget to show Canadians how he's planning on covering the costs for the almost $500 billion that he wants to spend. He's making all of the other provinces and the premiers be responsible for coming up with these national building projects that he kept talking about in the campaign, that we now know that he had no idea what we were actually going to be calling nation building projects. And now he refuses to repeal all of these laws and allow things to just progress as they have been before. So effectively, he's condoning all of these far left policies that the Liberals have put in over the last 10 years. That's not moving to the center.
Speaker, what my honourable colleagues should know is that the CEOs of the energy companies, the union workers, the rig workers are all supporting the One Canadian Economy Act. So it would be really great if they got on board as well.
The Honourable Member for Calgary East.
Please leave it in the ground. Liberals keep blocking resource projects, giving more dollars to dictators. Right. Radical Liberal policies are costing Canadian jobs and keeping our clean, responsible Canadian resources out of the hands of our allies. With the G7 now under the way, will this Prime Minister put aside his radical climate agenda to make sure that Canadian resources get into the hands of our allies?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, we've been clear, and I will repeat it once again. We are going to keep working to make sure Canada is an energy superpower. To do that, we need to be low risk, low cost, and low carbon. A strong Canadian economy. I hope the Conservatives will be able to help support us.
So if that's your goal, why are you not building nuclear? Why were you not building nuclear 10 years ago? Because that's not your goal. Your goal clearly is to stop oil and gas.
Well, this is the problem. You have them standing up and saying, we want to be an energy superpower, but we're just not going to leverage literally any of the resources that would make us an energy superpower in Canada. It is ridiculous.
The Calgary East.
Canada can't become energy independent until bad Liberal policies are repealed. The Prime Minister even admits that his own policies are what's not letting anything get built in this country. He even wants to give premiers veto over pipelines, ensuring that Americans get Canadian product at a fire sale price. With the world gathering in Alberta today, will the Prime Minister repeal his anti-energy laws so our allies can get more Canadian product? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Speaker, the answer is clear. If Canada wants to be an energy superpower, we need to do it in a smart way, and that is to make sure it's low risk, low cost, and low carbon. The Conservatives were unable to build anything because they didn't do environmental assessments, they didn't consult with Indigenous peoples. We're not going to follow the way they did things because that didn't get things done. We're going to get things done right.
We've had 10 years to get things done right, and we haven't done anything at all. That's what I'm hearing.
All we've wasted is trillions of dollars of taxpayer money. That's what we've done. And, we're going to get things done right. Okay, let's just recap. So low risk. What is low risk about leveraging existing infrastructure that we have on oil and gas? We already have means of getting it out of the ground. All we need is a way to transport it to tidewater.
Well, and pipeline is the best way. It's safer. It's
low risk.
Invasive. Yeah. That's what I mean by safer. I mean, if you put a bunch of oil on a train, for example, and you ship it across the country on rail, well, anything could go wrong, right? But
well, it's also slower, right? Because you have to get train from point A to point B, and there's only certain tracks that can go on versus a pipeline. You have flow, and you can get that to tidewater, get it on ships, and get it to market much faster and much safer. Mm-hmm. Because when you build these corridors and you have pipelines there, you're not going to have one running right through the center of a town like rail does. You're going to have it running in usually isolated areas, so that way if there is an issue, the environmental impact is small and the risk to public safety is small. Win-win. But you want to use solar and wind, which are unstable forms of energy. And what do I mean by that? Is it always sunny out? No. Is it always windy out? No. So there's an issue when it comes to regulating that type of power where you're constantly fighting with the system. So electrical engineers and people that work in power stations like constant flow of energy because that allows regulation of grids much easier. So it's just baffling to me that you have all of these countries that are begging for oil and gas, and we're saying no because it's too risky. Too risky for who, Mark?
Well, and the other thing that I didn't learn until recently was that we sell to the United States at a loss. We could be making so much money if we had other customers. But because the United States is our only customer, because of all these laws and regulations surrounding pipelines and oil tankers, we're not able to get it to other areas of the world. We can only sell to the United States, feasibly anyways.
By and large.
Yeah. And we're giving it to them at a huge discount. How much more money could Canada be making if we sold our oil and gas at market value? How much more could we be bringing in taxes? A lot.
Well, and notice how Mark Carney wants to give any of the provinces a veto, because that way if something doesn't get done, he'll say, well, it's not my problem. I wanted to do it, but it was the provincial premier out in BC. It was the provincial premier out in Quebec. It was the provincial premier out in whatever province or territory that stopped it. It's not my problem. It's their fault that nothing got done again for the next 10 years.
And we've spoken to multiple people in Parliament who have confirmed for us that in the event of a national pipeline, Ottawa has jurisdiction, not the provinces.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal housing minister says he doesn't want house prices to go down. While everyday Canadians are priced out of a home, he says he's focused on protecting people's assets. Well, now we know why. From his Vancouver penthouse, this minister is sitting atop a personal real estate empire worth over $10 million, including luxury properties in Tofino, Squamish, and English Bay. Why is it the only thing getting built under this housing minister is his personal fortune?
The honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'll caution the member on using inaccurate facts. Inaccurate facts. Inaccurate facts.
The headline from Blacklock's reporter reads, Hid investments from House. Housing Minister Gregor Robertson attempted to hide millions worth of investment property from MPs, according to British Columbia land titles uncovered by the Breaker News. Robertson would not discuss his real estate dealings when questioned in the House. Robertson, quote, has investments in at least 3 properties, end quote, reported the Breaker's Bob McKinn. Tax assessors put the combined value at $10.85 million.
Well, that's awkward. And the catch is we actually tried to look up the disclosure of Mr. Robertson, but like Mr. Carney, that won't be available until probably July. So we are going to be having to sit here and wait to see exactly what Mr. Robertson did and did not disclose to the Ethics Commissioner. Now, this is the trouble with this type of stuff, is that people don't get to actually understand who they're voting in until afterwards. So I think there needs to be some sort of laws that need to be enacted in order to, try and get some sort of disclosure from the candidates prior to actually voting for them, so people can actually understand the connections that candidates do have prior to making their decision.
The honourable member for Newtecumseh, Gwillimbury.
Liberals are just like Adams. They make up everything. More Canadians than ever are watching the dream of homeownership slip further out of reach.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, Mr. Davidson, but that was brilliant.
That was great. They're just like Adams. They make up everything.
I love it. I mean, you can't call people liars in the House, but you can call them Adams, I suppose.
You sure can.
But this housing minister isn't focused on solving the housing crisis because he's profiting from it. The average home in Canada now costs $680,000, $1.2 million in Vancouver. Rents and mortgages doubled, housing starts are down, so why is the minister more interested in protecting his real estate empire than ensuring Canadians can afford a home?
The Honourable Government House
Leader. Settle down. So why what's going on there? It's because the housing minister didn't stand up to actually respond to the question. That's the issue. So
well, I mean, after a shellacking like that, would you stand back up?
But don't worry, everybody. Steve McKinnon's to the rescue.
I thought we wanted to finish question period on time. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Housing, indeed all ministers and members of this House, live under some of the most stringent ethical requirements that require disclosure and transparency. As that member knows very well, the Minister of Housing is obviously complying with all of those rules, will continue to do so, and at the same time, he will continue working on providing housing opportunities for Canadians. That's why he's there. That's what he's going to do.
Now, Minister McKinnon is not wrong. The members of the House, and that includes the ministers, all have to report to the Ethics Commissioner all of their holdings, all of their assets, all of their deficits. So, for example, if you have a student loan, you have to report that to the Ethics Commissioner. But where I disagree with him is that there isn't really a good punishment, if you will, if you fail to disclose, or if you're dishonest, or if you're trying to hide your assets. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily what's happening in Mr. Robertson's case, but just in general, if an MP does not disclose properly or is actively hiding things from the Ethics Commissioner, the current punishment, if you will, is a $500 fine, which Michael Barrett had a private member's bill that intended to increase that to, what was it, $50,000, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, but he wasn't specific in terms of, is it per
infraction,
offense, or
yeah,
is it per page, per statement? That wasn't specific at that point.
But just hypothetically, say you are a minister who has approximately $10 million worth of assets that you're not reporting to the Ethics Commissioner, to the House, and your only punishment is a $500 fine. You might take that. I don't know. It's not a very steep fine.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
You'll have to excuse us if we don't take the party that's been known for serial ethical lawbreaking at their word when the Minister of Housing, who said that house prices don't need to come down, is sitting in a $2 million penthouse on a multi-million-dollar real estate fortune while he's telling Canadians that they're okay to just stay in their parents' basements. Wow. Canadians want to know why this minister wasn't transparent, didn't answer the question in Committee of the Whole, didn't answer the question when the member previously asked, and we don't think that he answered it honestly when he gave an answer to the Ethics Commissioner. Why won't this minister come clean and tell Canadians the truth?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the minister quite literally just gave the answer on the floor of this House. That member knows, as do his colleagues, that we live under ethical guidelines that are among the most stringent in the world. They govern all the members of this House. That minister is in full compliance with all of the rules. That member knows better.
That member knows better. That member spent months, years in committee unpacking Liberal corruption. That's what that member knows better. The previous Prime Minister had, what, 2 or 3 different ethical breaches? You had Greg Fergus, the previous Speaker, who had an ethical breach. You had, this is ridiculous. And they're saying, well, we live under, the strict... Well, guess what? That was put in by Conservatives because of Liberal corruption in the previous government.
But again, I agree with McKinnon. We do have very strict rules regarding ethics, ethical disclosures. However, the punishment is not strict.
Yeah, there's nothing. So there's nothing that requires you to.
Right. What use are strict rules if there's no punishment or hardly any punishment for breaking them?
Imagine, you're saying, every car must go the speed limit. You can't even go, 2 kilometers an hour over the speed limit. That would be a strict rule. But then if it was common knowledge that, well, if you did, you would only get a $5 fine, and even that, you probably won't even get caught. Guess what? No one is going to care about that strict rule.
Right. And I find it very interesting that, again, Robertson did not stand up to defend himself. Now, all of this stems from a report that was released in Blacklock's Reporter earlier today. And it is saying that Robertson did not disclose certain assets to the Ethics Commissioner. Again, we can't view his report from the Ethics Commissioner's office because it's not available yet, but that's what is at the heart of this issue here.
And I guess we'll find out when it actually does come out. And I remember the last time that the Conservatives were going after a Liberal minister for corruption like this, and they were stopped standing up, and they had somebody else standing up for them. I remember this clearly because it was Marco Mendicino that was standing up and getting shellacked based on the incompetence in his office on the Paul Bernardo transfer, and he stopped standing up, and Mark Holland, the other House leader that was there at the time, had to stand up and take those questions in his place. So I find it very interesting, the similarities in this case. So there may be some fire to this smoke.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
He's in
compliance with his multi-million-dollar real estate empire. That's the only thing he's in compliance with, while people are living in tent cities. This minister has said the housing market is working just fine. This from a real estate tycoon, while he has a $2.4 million penthouse in Vancouver, a $5.6 million lakefront property, and a $3 million estate in Tofino. You think housing prices are going to go down? No way! It's not in his financial interest for them to go down. How can anyone believe this minister will do anything for housing when it's in his vested interest to keep his real estate portfolio high and Canadians in tents?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Wow, the Conservatives are going for blood on this one.
Wouldn't you? Housing is one of the major issues in this country.
100%.
And Mark Carney appointed a housing minister who is being accused of hiding assets from the ethics commissioner.
Well, and if you go back, this is the guy who was the former mayor in Vancouver who drove up housing prices by 179%. So that obviously enriched the value of his own properties there. And if he owns a real estate and investment business as well, it's nothing but cha-ching as you watch those dollars roll in and the housing prices go up.
And further to that, you have this Liberal government that's telling Canadian homeowners, I should say, that don't worry, your housing prices are not going to go down. But on the other hand, they're telling people who want to get into the housing market, don't worry, we're going to have affordable homes for you. Those two things are at odds with each other. Even if you assume that people who own homes are not going to lose value on their homes, that we're going to build a bunch of new homes on this hand that will be affordable for people who don't currently have homes. What's to stop the homeowners over here from buying those new homes and, say, selling $1 million home and moving into a home that's half that price? Now your people who don't have homes are still without homes. Like, none of this makes sense. You cannot have both things at the same time.
It's basically asking an arsonist to take over as head of the fire department.
The minister is literally spending day and night, 7 days a week at creating opportunities in housing for Canadians, while at the same time being in full compliance with the strictest ethical obligations faced by public office holders in the world, Mr. Speaker. You know that. Those members know that. We are in full compliance. That will continue to be the case.
After 10 years of economic vandalism by these Liberals, Albertans want the walk to match the talk. It's been 3 months since the start of the campaign, 4 weeks since the throne speech, weeks since the meeting with the premiers and businesses, and yet the No More Pipelines bill, the tanker ban, the production camp, and the industrial carbon tax all still remain, and not a single oil and gas project has been announced. So when does the talk become the walk, or is this all just more Liberal squawk? Yeah!
I'm not even going to let them answer that question because we are on the insanity. That was beautifully put, I just got to say, because it unpacks and it peels back all of these lies that were going on during the campaign that Carney was telling everybody. He was telling everyone, whoa, we're going to start all these nation building projects. Had no frickin' idea as to what a nation building project actually was going to be. And we know that because he doesn't have any that he's putting forward. He went to the premier's meeting and saying, you guys have to figure out what these nation building projects actually are that I've been promising everybody for the last 3 months.
Unfortunately, I think the Century Initiative qualifies as a nation building project.
Yeah, and they don't even have to spend any money on it, because all they have to do is import millions of people every single year, drive up housing costs, crush our medical system, and crush our education system. Why not? But this is where we've said that the honeymoon for Carney is not going to be long. If he's promised all these massive things, but if he doesn't start showing results, which I don't see how we're going to see any results anytime soon, people are going to be losing trust very, very quickly. People are talking about, well, the preferred prime minister, the results are up and Pierre is down. Right, because this is the point in the honeymoon period where Carney is still parting on the Carney show.
He can do no wrong right now, but give that a few months
Right, and you're going to see that, hey, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Oh, this tax break, was passed. I'm not noticing literally anything at all, because you're not going to notice any tangible results. And this was the one thing that they were hammering. Oh, you're going to get this tax cut. You're going to get this tax cut. Well, most Canadians aren't going to feel that at all.
Groceries are still insanely expensive.
Right, and you're going to notice maybe $15 a month on your paycheck? Whoopity-doo. So, yeah, the question is, when are we going to see the walk, walk, walk instead of the squawk, squawk, squawk?